Yesterday was a big day, a huge day. Whatever happens next will be a big story too. Win or lose, the cup match between Ineos Britannia and Emirates Team New Zealand will make the headlines and be a matter of record in the ongoing history of the cup. But today is a day that's worthy of that too, as the Puig Women's America's Cup gets underway. While this isn't the first time that there's been a women's team in the Cup, it is A, pretty rare, and B, there's never been a series specifically focused on women in the Cup before. I'd argue that there's never been a better time for this to happen either. The physical demands of the America's Cup boats that have gone before have usually created a barrier to women. But today, aboard the AC40s, these physical demands have been replaced with electrics and hydraulics. On top of this, we've seen the growth and development of women in high-performance boats, like the 49er FX, the Nacra 17, the Foiling Moth, the Wasp, and many others. This has delivered a new generation of accomplished female sailors that are very comfortable with high-performance sailing. Today saw the 6 America's Cup teams in Group A engaged in 4 fleet races. Tomorrow it'll be the invited teams that take to the water. The event runs in the same way as the Youth America's Cup, with the top 3 from each group racing against each other before the top 2 then go on to the match race final. As we've already seen in this Cup, alongside the familiar names, there's a new wave of talented young sailors that look set to become the new top dogs in the newly evolving part of the sport.
It's feeling much more like a boat and a dinghy than I thought it ever would.
Really?
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. Like, definitely initially feels a bit like an alien machine that you've just been put in and you've got no idea what makes it feel better, and yeah, just very alien. And then quite quickly, the more you do, the more it feels like a boat, and all the different movements and buttons you get feedback from, and it's just like sailing. It's cool.
Was it quite stressful? I would imagine it was, the first few times.
Oh man, the first time we went out as Athena Pathway, kind of felt like we were cut loose on our own. Running the operation was one of the most stressful, high pressure days I think I had, just in terms of you feel so responsible for the whole operation, for everyone being safe and the boat being fine, and yeah, it was a big day, but it went well and we've built from there.
What was, in the early stages, what was the hardest thing to get your head around, to get to grips with?
In the boat?
Yeah.
I think for the drive and the helm, I think it's just obviously being to leeward, like, and not driving, but doing the foil arm and understanding the cant and moving the foil arm in and out and the immersion and all the relationships, and just yeah, learning about this monohull that's got foils on either side, and you've got another driver you've got to communicate with, and the handover of manoeuvres and all of that. Just such a huge learning curve. Yeah, it's been amazing though. Like,
yeah.
The learning is just like...
I bet it is.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that you've also got to get used to a whole bundle of different physical sensations to tell you what the boat's doing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it like, as I say, initially you just have no feeling of what's good and how to make the boat go faster, and you know, it feels staggery, but you're like, I don't know what to do. And the more you do, the more, like any boat, you know intuitively, I need to do this and this and this to make it go. But equally, in this boat, you're so separate as roles with the trimmer and the driver and the person doing the foil. Like, there's 4 people all working incredibly hard to make the boat go faster. And so for me, coming from a 2-person boat, you know, suddenly there's 4 people that you have to be working in unison with, and you're all trying to achieve the same thing. And so making that happen in a split second, yeah, it's just another cool challenge of it.
You spent so many years sailing with Saskia in a boat that is famous for its sort of physical input, isn't it? I mean, from pumping on the trapeze, but I mean, even the fact that you're just in the boat side by side and you can feel or sense periphery vision as to what they're doing. That's all, I would imagine that's all, well, it is all part of the communication, knowing how people move and the rest of it. But you don't have any of that on these boats. So how difficult is that when you're sort of, I would imagine, isolated? I mean, yes, you've got the headset, but you're isolated. You can't see it. They can't give you a wink or a nod, or
yeah.
you can't see any of that.
Yeah, it's funny though, the headsets and the helmets, and just the fact the communication is so clear, even though you're going 30 knots or whatever it is, with so much wind in your face, and the traveller moving up and down is super loud, and you've got the pumps going on the boat. I think because they're there in your ears, sat right behind you or on the other side, it does feel quite intimate still, and that you've still got that really close relationship, even though all of these other things are going on, and you can't physically necessarily see their face and what's going on. So yeah, you still have that same bond in many ways, and that same feedback. What the Women's Cup in particular has done is create the opportunity for 48 women, essentially, if not more, by the end of it, to have quite a lot of experience sailing these types of boats, and there will be some standout sailors in that hopefully will get recognised and scooped up by America's Cup teams. But yeah, with the Cup, it's always so hard with whoever wins decide what happens next. So who knows what will happen next? But I think it's definitely put a big marker in the sand of this is the beginning, and hopefully, there'll be another Women's America's Cup that will build on that, and we will slowly start to see the integration of women in the Cup teams because of merit, because they've earned their spot there. I think, young kids today want to be going foiling. They want to be sensing that speed and the challenge of foiling, and I think as a sport we need to embrace it. I think we need to be careful and make sure there's still the access routes and the opportunities for more people to get into our sport. But ultimately, I think, it's about embracing it and saying we want to grow our sport, right? And this is what the next generation are excited about. And so let's make the best of it, and let's make the opportunities as good as they can be, whilst trying to open more doors for more people.
Do you think future generations, and they might not be that far away, that come into foiling at this level and AC40 will go, what the hell do they make all that fuss about? It's just foiling, isn't it?
Yep.
Wonder whether that next generation that take foiling, the speed, the whole dynamic in their stride, will take to this much easier than the first and second generations.
Definitely. We will see. Yeah, they'll probably be like, you've made a right meal out of this. But,
that's not what I really want to say, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think 100%. You see it with the Luna Rossa team. With Marco.
Well, that's what I was thinking about.
And stuff. I think it's really exciting for the young people to see people like Marco and the Youth America's Cup and the opportunities there, and to see it's not that far off for them. And that's really, really cool, because I think before this, I think the America's Cup could feel a bit like something that just happens in our sport that's really cool, but how do you do it? Whereas now I think it's much more tangible.
Now, those of you that have followed the features we've done on the road to the America's Cup will probably recognise my friend here, Stephen Suchia. Stephen helped us out with some of the features we did on the early stages, the early development of the America's Cup, how it all started. It was fascinating stuff, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. It's well worth watching. Stephen, good to see you. I guess you've just flown across the Atlantic. The excitement got the better of you.
Indeed.
You've come to see it in the flesh.
You have to.
I guess you do. Now, we talked about your helping us as in your role as sort of historian, I guess, for the New York Yacht Club. But you carry all kinds of other roles, and you're here performing another role as well.
Indeed. I have the great pleasure of serving as the chairman of the selection committee of the America's Cup Hall of Fame.
All right.
And we're having our 27th induction ceremony on Monday, October 14th at the Maritime Museum, located just beyond those trees.
Fantastic. And so what will happen at the induction ceremony? Who are we inducting? Is that a dark secret, or is that?
Now, we can most certainly share it with you.
Oh, good.
So I'm happy to say we're inducting the class of 2024. That includes Kevin Shoebridge of New Zealand, Josh Belsky of the United States, the late Bob Fisher of the United Kingdom, and a Barcelonian native, Juan Villa.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great.
So those four will join over 100 people we have inducted since 1993.
And is this open to, is this a select group that go, or is it open? Can you buy tickets? Can you go and...
Good question. We have some tickets available left. In fact, give it a go. In fact, I encourage people to go on our website. We have found a space that can accommodate more people. So I hope to see many of you who are watching to help celebrate these 4 very well-deserving people.
Fantastic. Well, I have been to one before, so I think I went to one in
Yes, you
Auckland,
have.
and it was a fantastic evening. I really enjoyed
It's
it.
always fun because you get to rub shoulders with current America's Cup sailors and those of the past. Many who've sailed on 12-meter yachts to America's Cup class yachts all over the world. But what also makes the ceremony special for this event is we're presenting the Sutton Medal for individuals and institutions who have promoted the spirit of friendly competition as wished for by the donors of the America's Cup. This year, we're presenting this award to Cino Ricci of Italy, who was involved with the 1983 Azzurra campaign and also helped spread the word of the Cup in Italy, and the great company Louis Vuitton, who has supported the America's Cup since 1983, especially through their wonderful Challenger Selection Series.
That sounds great. It's I'm very well deserved, I'm sure. It always amuses me, the phrase friendly competition. We all know what it means, but sometimes it's not quite as friendly
Right.
as.
It's not. And that's why we have a metaphor, because it's not as often we would like to see.
Great.
So it's for special moments.
Fantastic. Great to see you, Stephen. Look forward to seeing you on the night, and good luck with it.